What's up guys? We've got a lot to do today in the fish room. I've got an Ecotech Versa to set up on the 125 gallon Reef tank. We're going to be adding new fish to the 60 gallon tank I just set up. I have to show you guys what I put in this tank, but you can't see them because my finger is covering them up. They are so small. So let's get to it, guys. So first off, a little update on the 125. Everything is going really good. Like I mentioned, the cyanobacteria, red slime, or whatever you want to call it, has reduced itself to just this patch in the corner. It was pretty much all over this section, all over the glass, but it's greatly reduced itself. But overall, that's pretty much the only place where there is cyanobacteria left in the tank. And speaking of which, the way I've accomplished that is, like I mentioned in the intro, carbon dosing vinegar. At this point, I've sort of slowed down the amount of vinegar I've been dosing, and that's the color I'm getting right now. So it's definitely lighter in color than it was when I was really pulling stuff out towards the middle when there's still a lot of nutrients in the water. So in the beginning, we've gone from around 50 parts per million nitrate, and I think it was like 0.15 parts per million phosphate. We've gotten it down to just around maybe 10 or a couple parts per million more than 10 nitrate and 0.03 parts per million phosphate. So with the refugium and my bad test kit, I thought I was pulling out enough nitrate and phosphate. The levels were high. When I got the corals, I eventually figured this out with my new test kits. And so we've started, after just 60 days of doing vinegar dosing, we got the nitrate down from 50 to 10 and the phosphate from 0.15 to 0.03 parts per million. So those I think are pretty good results after 60 days. No water changes during that time either. When I first got the corals, I did a pretty big water change, almost a third of this tank. And I tested the nitrate before and after, and I could not identify a reduction in nitrate after a third of the water has been replaced with new fresh water. When I added the new protein skimmer, I really wasn't pulling out, like at 50 parts per million nitrate, I thought that I'd be pulling out like literal sludge out of this thing. But once the proteins and all of the amino acids and stuff are broken down into just nitrate and phosphate, the protein skimmer cannot take them out. So you have to resuspend them in the water in the form of like the bacteria that reproduce when you add the carbon source, the vinegar and the vodka. And so that is what you're actually pulling out, the nutrients that the bacteria are producing, if not the bacteria themselves. And so that is what gets removed when you use your protein skimmer. If you're not carbon dosing, a protein skimmer is only going to remove the waste that's being produced as the fish produce it. And you should rinse your food off, which I had been doing for about that same amount of time I was carbon dosing. I was rinsing the frozen food in water to remove all of the particulates and all the nutrients that are just not able to be consumed by the fish because they're too small. So rinsing it leaves just the large pieces that the fish can eat, and overall just reduces the amount of nutrients you're putting in your tank when you're feeding frozen food. Same with freshwater too. You rinse your frozen food and you're just going to be putting in less nutrients into your tank. And also, since the nutrients have come down, I've noticed my chaeto stopped growing as rapidly as it used to, and I used to run the refugium 24/7, and I'm switching it now, or I already did switch it last night, to just run at night with this timer. So the light will kick on an hour and a half before the lights in the tank go off, and then this will stay on for maybe an hour after the lights come on in the morning. And that should also help to reduce or level out the pH swings from day to nighttime. When the photosynthetic organisms stop doing their thing at night, they are going to stop consuming CO2 and stop producing oxygen, which will lower the pH. So if you have part of the tank, like the refugium, set up on the opposite schedule of the tank, then there will be organisms and life producing oxygen and reducing CO2 while your fish are asleep. So it will level out, or at least level out a little bit, that pH swing you'll naturally get, which there is no pH swing in the ocean. So it's best to keep the pH as stable as possible. You may think this is crazy, but I have been dosing manually by hand every day soda ash, alkalinity into my tank, about 28 milliliters for the level that the corals were growing at the time, and I just whipped up a fresh batch of kalkwasser, which we're going to use with this new dosing pump that I picked up, which is by far the other than the protein skimmer, I'll give it to the protein skimmer. That's a pretty high quality piece of kit there, but the dosing pump is by far the most expensive one piece of equipment that I've bought for my tank so far. There are definitely cheaper dosing pumps, but ones that run continuously which are peristolic dosing pumps. Those are more expensive, as well as ones that have Bluetooth capabilities, and you can manually change everything through an app. You pay for those capabilities and those conveniences. So that's what I really wanted to do. And just having the convenience to have them all in a smart device is much nicer than having them than at least dosing them manually. So for about 2 months, I was testing alkalinity and sometimes pH every single day. Testing each day, dosing each day, multiple times a day, to try to spread out the amount of alkalinity I was dosing. I assumed that all at once is not the best thing, so I was spreading it out. So this is my log, and now we shouldn't have to do as much of that because we have an automatic doser. We'll get back to the salt water in a second, but I've got to show you guys what we bought. So the other day, we went to the store to pick up fish for this new 60-gallon tank that I put together. These fish are in here. You can see them more close up in the other video that I made. I'll show you them again today when we add more fish. But in addition to those fish, because they were having a sale, we picked up 2 more fish. Mainly, these are ones that Brittany wanted, but I also wanted these. They are goldfish, and we've been wanting Ranchu goldfish for quite a long time, and they had some different assorted varieties of goldfish, and they weren't really labeled specifically Ranchu, but doing research kind of looks like these are Ranchu because they don't have dorsal fin, and their heads aren't like super covered in like those growth things. The wan, their heads don't have the wan, I guess that's what it's called, on their head. So no wan and no dorsal fin. They're not the other 2 kinds that are similar. At least it looks like that. Maybe they're crossbred or something. But they're small and they wiggle and they're very cute. So we set up this 54-gallon corner tank for them. These 2 goldfish plus a few more fish in the future should be just fine in this big tank. And look at them, they're wiggling. We had to get 2 because, well, they obviously love each other. They're swimming together. They're swimming together all the time. They go and find each other when they can't see each other. Pretty simple aquascape. 2 big rocks, smaller rocks. We'll probably put some plants in here in the future, but it's just a gravel substrate. No nutrients under there or anything because, well, goldfish are very dirty. You think, yeah, everyone knows goldfish are dirty, but do you really understand how dirty goldfish are? In all my tanks, the TDS of the water never goes above 250 usually. In some of my tanks that didn't have a lot of plants and they've gone a little bit without a water change, they may get up to like 280, rarely anything higher than that. I tested our goldfish tank the other day, like these 2 goldfish, with just 2 goldfish, and this water gets changed pretty regularly. Never, ever have I seen water this dirty. 464. I change this water basically every other week, and there's only 2 fish in here, okay? So when we got the 2 Ranchu goldfish home from the fish store, and I was like, I'll check the water and just see what's going on with the water from the store, just to see what the quality of the water was. And so these goldfish at that point have been in the bag for maybe an hour and a half, maybe closer to 2 hours. The TDS on this meter, I checked all my other tanks to make sure that the meter wasn't off. It was like 800 and something TDS. It was like 860 TDS.
Gross. You nasty.
TDS isn't going to measure like specifically hardness, alkalinity, stuff like that. It's going to measure basically everything that's dissolved in the water. So the fish poop and the fish pee and anything, it's going to show you what's in that water. And I didn't know the meter would go up that high, but it was reading 800 in that bag. Goldfish are so dirty. That was like the first I'd ever seen firsthand evidence of goldfish being in water. The water was clear water in the bag, and it was almost, if you round up, that's 1,000 TDS. That water should have been basically pudding, and these guys made it. They made that pudding water, and people keep these things in bowls. What is wrong with you guys? Not specifically you guys, but like some people. You can't put these guys in bowls. Come on, look at them. They like their big tank, even though they can't really swim through it. But the first order of business is these guys, well, their tank's a little big, and we have other fish that would love to go in there. 1, because their tank is overrun with hair algae, and 2, because, well, these fish don't need their whole tank because they're just tiny little fish. So how do you know if 2 fish can be placed together? Well, their water parameters should be similar, their eating habits should be similar, their size should be similar, and all things considered, if the water parameters that each fish need are similar and they won't eat each other and they won't pick on each other, then they should be good to go in the same tank. And if they're not going to fight and have a hard time getting food because one fish is really fast and one fish is really slow, then the fish should be pretty good for each other. So the fish I'm talking about are white cloud mountain minnows, and that tank is way full, overrun with hair algae. Since I need to clean that tank out anyway, we're gonna put those white clouds and these white clouds in with the goldfish because they're, let's be honest, they're not gonna use their whole tank. They're so small. And right now, they're not gonna pollute their water as much because they're so tiny. We're not feeding them that much. And the white clouds could help eat some of the leftover food if the goldfish don't eat it all. So let's get these goldfish some friends. Let's start with the ones up here. I'm actually not even sure how many we have. The hardest part may not be catching the fish, it may be not catching the hair algae. We have one. This is ridiculous. We've got 3, so 4 total. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That might be all. Look at these guys. Look how pretty these fish are. They're really such an underappreciated fish. Like, especially when they're little, they're basically like little tiny neon tetras. They've got this really cool blue line that runs down their side, and they eventually, it sort of just turns into this white line. You can sort of see these guys still have a little bit of blue fluorescence to that line. But they're like little neon tetras when they're babies. And use a different net, because I don't want any hair algae in here. I need to replant all of that grass that's come up. These guys have no clue what a net is. No clue. Shloop. There are so many shrimp in this tank now, which is good, very good. I have a feeling these fish were a little big and they're probably starting to pick off some of the shrimp fry or shrimplets. Cool. Look at all these guys. So both of these water containers should be very similar in temperature. These are both unheated tanks. One is at a higher level. This one is definitely gonna be warmer than the 50 gallon that the goldfish are in. 73.6, 74.7, nothing to worry about. Okay, so I got my bucket. I'm gonna rinse the fish in. Hopefully we won't get any hair algae, and then we'll put them straight in the tank.
You and your friends are dead!
Two more. Oh, the goldfish are... Oh, dude, no. Holy sh... The goldfish are savages. No. They're going after them. What? These white clouds are like... There should be so much faster. Come on. Guys. They're like little bulldogs. That is not the response I figured we would get from the fish. More. 2 more. Bro just spit out his food to chase one. What is this? I guess if you need a reminder, guys, that nature is brutal, get a pair of Ranchu goldfish. I do normally feed the tank first, feed the fish that are already in the tank so that there's no aggression. But I really it's early in the morning. I didn't think this would be an issue. I have a few at the top, and then the rest are like down here in the danger zone. I really think they'll get used to them, and they won't. It's more of like they were super interesting at first, and they probably just assumed food because honestly, they're probably not that intelligent.
They're not.
Also, I would think the white clouds would school together, and they should be able to definitely outmaneuver these guys because I mean, they're not Formula 1 cars. I mean, it looks good. Definitely more going on in the tank now. They're sort of getting their bearings and staying together. Gotta keep the goldfish fed. Noted. Now on to the less exciting than that, but adding some fish to this 60 gallon should be much less eventful. At least these fish won't kill anything. Since this will be much less exciting and probably take a long time, I'm gonna catch some Hillstream Loaches out of that tank. I guess you guys can watch this. In this tank are a mommy and a daddy Hillstream Loach.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
And they've made babies. The only babies that I've actually seen are the ones that I've sucked out with a gravel vacuum, and they were in a bucket for a while. So I think it's mainly the tank size. They have no problem breeding, but either the tank isn't big enough to sustain all the babies and they don't end up making it, or honestly, I'm not sure. I would recommend a larger tank, probably like a 20 gallon at least for breeding Hillstream Loaches. It's not good for these two to be in a 10 gallon, so they're gonna be moved to the 60 gallon where they can enjoy all of the new fruits of that new tank. And this tank, I guess we'll have to leave empty for a little bit to see if there's any babies left in here. But yeah, we gotta catch some Hillstream Loaches, and they are notoriously hard to catch because they like to suck on everything. So, let's get to catching. I found one. Oh, he's staying on the rock. Sick!
It is ma'am.
Oh, that was easy. Now they can totally jump out of the water, so we're gonna put a lid on this guy. Got the second one. 2 Hillstream Loaches. Now the way you tell these apart sexually, male and female, is the female on the left is gonna have more rounded shoulders on the top. So like up there, they're more rounded. And the male has more squared off shoulders of the fins. They're definitely more square. So here you can see the male, these side fins towards the face are more squared off, and the female has more of a round shape. Female, male.
Ma'am!
And for these guys, we will be floating them for a little bit because the tank that they were in previously is unheated. And this tank is heated to 77 degrees. Just leave them right there to marinate. As you can see, the wood's starting to turn green. They're gonna have a lot of stuff to eat, as well as fish food. They'll eat that too, but they definitely have enough stuff to munch on. All this stuff at the bottom. Look, all the white clouds are swimming around now. Nice, that's a good looking tank. It's very simple, and that's pretty good. I like that. The white clouds definitely add a different look to the tank. Like, you can tell there's fish in here now, not just these 2 little jelly beans.
Do you even know what a jelly bean is?
While the Hillstream Loaches are floating in that tank, I think you might want to set up the dosing pump on the saltwater tank. So the other day, the anemone used to be right here. Put him in the tank initially, put him right there. He crawled, walked right into that crevice, and he stayed there for probably 3 or 4 weeks. And then the other day, I noticed he was not there, and he was all the way up on this rock right underneath this ledge up here, right there. Then I think it was a day later, I couldn't find him, and I came out, and he was on the other side of the tank. Right here, next to the hammer coral, right there. And then he moved somewhere, probably in this rock, because I came home that night, couldn't find him. The next morning, I came out here, and note I do have a guard on this power head, but I do not, well, I didn't at the time have a guard on this power head. This is a garlic sock. You buy garlic at the store, it's in these little stretchy mesh nylon bags or whatever. You cut it like 2/3 of the bag down, and cut the end off, and slip it around your power head. You have basically a free anemone guard. You can probably figure out where I'm going with this, but I came out that morning to see the anemone just like the size of a quarter, maybe even a nickel. He was like 1/10 the size he was, maybe even smaller, just suctioned right on the top of this power head. So we pulled him off, and I turned the power head off, and I stuck him back right where he used to be the original time, and he has since then stayed right under that rock since I put him back. He's doing okay. He was actually almost completely back to normal that same day after we moved him back, but long story short, if he had picked the wrong door and he had gone into door number 1, power head on the left, this tank would have been nuked. So, PSA, if you have an anemone, somehow you've had rare luck with your anemone, putting him in, staying where you wanted him to stay, and he hasn't moved, there's a very, very high likelihood that at some point in the future, he will move. And if you don't have an anemone guard on your power head, your tank is ruined. Well, obviously the anemone is ruined, but you think like this giant ball of flesh can't possibly fit through the holes in the power head. You're wrong. They can shrink, they can expel all of their water and turn into like this little tiny piece of chewing gum, and they'll be sucked into your power head. Tank ruined. So you have to get an anemone guard for your power head if you're gonna have an anemone. That's just fact. I took a gamble and I only had one on one side. And if it had been up to that guy and he picked that left side, it would have been over. On a positive note, look at this Yuma. Wow. He didn't like his frag plug, so he has been moving. But look at that guy, beautiful. Okay, now the Versa. So like I mentioned, this is like the nicest piece of technology, like the most name brand item that I've bought so far. But this will save me such a headache of dosing every single day. Since I'm dosing this separately from my top off water, it's gonna be more consistent. That is the best way to do it, not dosing through an ATO, automatic top off. It'll ruin your automatic top off pump, and the amount of evaporation that your tank gets throughout the year is gonna fluctuate. You don't want the water parameters of your reef tank to be dependent on your evaporation. So we're gonna dose this through a separate system. The only thing that's gonna be kind of janky about this setup is that I just assumed this came with dosing tubing. In the picture, you can see some tubing that's not included, so that threw me off. I have just regular like aquarium airline tubing, like a harder version, and then I have like a silicone 1/4-inch tubing. So I think for the time being, we're gonna use that. And if the high pH of Kalkwasser burns through that tubing, which I kind of don't feel like it will, but we'll see. If it burns through that, then we can get some high quality dosing tubing. like I've been unboxing this, but let's continue to unbox this. So we have this little cup, which you can use to make sure that the doser is tuned accurately, so it's putting out the right amount of liquid, which I don't think we're gonna mess with that. Oh, we actually have some screws to put on the wall, nice. When you just buy one, you don't get the mounting bracket, so you kind of just have to mount them on their own, but, oh, does this slide out? So here's the pump, does that slide out? Yo, that's, okay, this is pretty cool. So you mount this to the back wall, mounted to the wall, and this just slides on. Sick. There's no like lining up screws for like a power strip where you have to figure out the screw. Nice. And then it comes with, well, that was obviously the main thing, the pump, the big dude, thick. So this motor turns and basically pulls liquid from this side and puts it out this side. One of them goes from your dosing container and the other one goes into to a high flow area of your sump. You should probably create a high flow area if you don't have one, like use a power head so that it doesn't calcify in the bottom of your sump. Power cable. I've already installed the app. That's basically all that's in the box. So, oh, and some lube. This stuff's really good. It's used to lubricate plastic parts, basically makes plastic last longer. There's different versions of this. This one is food grade, so you can use this on other stuff too. It's actually used in like a lot of espresso machines and coffee machines around the like O-rings and gaskets. So it's, yeah, good for eating. Not like, don't actually eat it, but it's safe. We've got 2 screws and we have got some drywall anchors, which we do not need drywall anchors, and I believe this is, oh, is this for dosing? I actually thought these were like masonry plugs. Let's actually read the manual and see what these other things are. Well, apparently I'm supposed to know what these things are because I don't think it says in here. If I had to guess what these little 2 pieces are, I would say one of them goes in the inlet of your dosing line, and then one of them goes in the outlet of your dosing line, and it probably just keeps the inlet, well, the outlet would be the one that's out of the water, but it would keep it from getting dried and like calcified, so it probably just keeps air from returning into the line when it's not moving. That's my guess. I don't know. Tell me in the comments what these are for. Let me grab my drill. Whoops. Let's make sure that's straight. Oh man. F. No way that made it less magnetic. You should have pre-drilled your hole. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Pre-drill your hole, fellas. Pre-drill your hole. Oh.
Just do it!
Okay, fine. Yeah, that was easier. I think like the feet keep it from like sliding down far enough, but I mean it's on there, I think. Cable management for the boys. So like I mentioned, I've just got this like basic tubing. It definitely fits in and locks pretty securely into the connections. Just let me know if like I'm gonna come out here to a pool of kalkwasser on my floor, if I should get some tubing that's like dedicated for dosing. Let me know in the comments. I put this little weighted thing on the end of the line I'm gonna have in my kalkwasser, and it's just gonna help get close to the bottom, not to suck up all the sediment, but so that I can get more out of a gallon. And I know that I'll have to be making new kalkwasser all the time, but until I get an actual like container for this, I'm gonna start with this one so that I guess if there's an issue with the doser, it won't completely destroy my tank by dumping this all in within a few hours. And then once I get everything down, I can upgrade to a bigger one so I don't have to make as much kalkwasser as often. Okay, so from the doser into the calc. Maybe I should like run some water through this first. And then we have the out, which I'm going to, I guess I'll put this little tube in. Again, not sure if this is what I'm supposed to use this for. Don't know. So the other end will go into the out of the doser, and then the other end we'll go into my high flow area. Everything will get more sophisticated over time, I promise. For now, it's going, well, I'm going to test it with this water bottle, but that's where it's going to come from. It's going to go into the doser, and then it's going to go right into my little weird contraption. This is where all the water enters in before it enters in my sump. So I have the dosing line suction cup right there. So I'm going to open the Mobius app. So I have my container size set to 3.78 liters, so it'll let me know when it's getting low. Well, I guess it won't let me know. I don't think it has that feature, but I can see when my container's getting low. It rounds it to 4. But then I have my time set to dose from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. and that's roughly the same schedule as my lighting, the off time. When I calculated my dosage, I think it was around 1,200 milliliters. So I'm gonna go on the way low side of that and guess 200 milliliters to start. So I'm gonna double check my alkalinity is correct and start dosing a very small amount of this one night. So tonight I'm gonna set my dosage to 200 milliliters and it's gonna add that over the course of those 12 hours. And then tomorrow I'll see what my alkalinity is and I'm gonna dial back my daily dose of 2-part to match what this 200 milliliters of Kalkwasser is making up for. And so after a few days of increasing my Kalkwasser and dialing back my dosage of 2-part, hopefully we can get to essentially doing no 2-part and using this, and then eventually we'll catch up, make up the difference in whatever I need to, calcium or alkalinity, with my 2-part. But this should dose the majority of what I need for this tank. The Kalkwasser should, as well as give me pH increasing benefits as well. I mean, it looks like I've got everything all set up. I'm gonna do a little test dose of just water. You can see the pump is turning and the water is being drawn in. There we go. This is so convenient. White clouds are looking good. This is exactly what I wanted them to do, like school in the middle or group together in the middle over these rocks. That looks perfect. I'm sure the Hillstream Loaches are definitely acclimated. It's been at least 30 minutes. Before we let the Loaches out, I would like to try to remove a couple of these rocks. These are in here. If you haven't seen my last video where I put this together, these were in here because this wood started to float and ripped off of these points that I had glued to these rocks. These rocks are in here as a counterweight to keep the wood down, but over time we should need less and less rocks. I've already removed a few, but I'm gonna see if I can get any more of these out of here. Of course, the fish are right over this part that's open. Come on, guys, go over there. I'm sure we can take this one out. Let's try these two. This might be risking too much, but I'm gonna take this one off too. That's definitely as much rock as I can take out, because now if this top wasn't on here, this wood's gonna come up. Look at the plants though. Even with those rocks in the way, those plants are they're shooting up. They're really growing well. Oh, climbing up the sides. Maybe you could let them climb up the sides and into the tank. Yikes, dude. They're so fast. Okay, I'm gonna dump the water out and leave them in the container. Well, there's the other one. Right in there. The little mini stingrays. That's a pretty good day in the fish room so far, guys. We just added more fish to the new 60-gallon. We got some of these ugly rocks out of here so we can eventually see the aquascape and the plants that are in here. Showed you guys the goldfish tank and the new baby goldfish. Well, kind of babies. And we added white cloud mountain minnows. Sweet. These guys look so good in here. We set up our automatic doser on the saltwater tank, which is gonna be super convenient to not have to dose all of this every single day and test every single day. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned, I got my RO system set up. So now we have fresh RODI water whenever we need it. And that's actually what I use to fill up the 60-gallon. This tank and part of this tank, the goldfish tank, is all my RODI water. So that means no more going back to the store and filling up 5-gallon jugs at the dispenser every week and lugging around like 35 gallons of water in the back of the Camry. So that's so super convenient that we have water on demand whenever we want it. And speaking of whenever we want it, the next tank we're gonna be building, I think, is the 125 cichlid tank, or yeah, it's probably gonna be a cichlid tank. With this video, I'm gonna show you guys how to remove scratches from your aquarium, scratches as well as mineral buildup. All of that crap will not come off with vinegar. Whatever you guys want to recommend, it will not work. I've tried it. I almost made a video, except that all of the things I tried to remove the really stubborn hard water stains, or potentially etched glass, which etching is something that you can't remove with acids. It's actually, the glass has become pitted. So I think that's kind of what I'm dealing with in this tank. For my testing, if you can't remove the hard water buildup with a razor blade and water, it's very likely to be that your glass is etched, and that's going to require something different. The same thing that scratches require to be removed, which would be a buffing wheel attached to a drill, water, and some cerium oxide. And with those things, we should be able to remove most scratches from most glass. And that's gonna be part of the build process for this 125. That's gonna be this huge tank for African cichlids. We gotta get this monstera removed because that was on top of the goldfish tank, which now we're gonna probably put this in the middle of the room hanging from the ceiling. That'll probably not be a video, but you'll see it there hung up next time. So yeah, in this main room in here, we'll have a 60-gallon planted tank with who knows what, maybe rainbow fish in the future. We have the 125 Reef. We have in the corner the goldfish. We'll have a 125-gallon African cichlid tank. And then we've got the OG 90-gallon planted tank. So this is the fish ring. We have fish everywhere. Fish tanks, fish tanks, fish tanks. And this fish tank with the cichlids will be, you'll be able to see through it. So we will just have the back empty, I think. I think I want to have the back open. Even if we don't keep it that way, we can paint it later if we want, but I think I want to have the rock sort of in the middle so we can observe the fish from both sides. I think that'd be really cool. Other than that, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to, I guess. And I'll see you in the next video.